Paper is made to basic sizes, as they call it, in the paper world, and it's not easily understood, so hang with me here. The three most common types of paper that we all use today is copy paper, or in other words, bond. That's the first one. The second one is text papers, and the third one is cover papers. So I'm going to start with bond. The most basic size of bond paper in the paper world is 17 inches by 22 inches. And paper in bond, if you have 20-pound bond in its most basic size of 1722, and you have it in a ream amount, and by definition, a ream is 500 sheets. So if I have a ream of 17 inches by 22 inches, 20-pound bond, and if I were to slide that onto a paper scale or any scale that could weigh it, that would weigh 20 pounds. So when you go to the store and you buy yourself a ream of 20-pound copy paper, people always wonder, why is it 20 pounds? This isn't 20 pounds, this ream. It's actually 5 pounds because that's a quarter of 17 inches by 22 inches. The next most common size is size is text papers, and the basic size for that is 25 inches by 38 inches. And if you happen to have 80-pound text weight in its most basic size of 25 by 38, and you have 500 sheets of that, and you slide it onto a scale, it's going to weigh 80 pounds. And then the third most common is cover paper. And that's the papers that we are familiar with, like for business cards or for the covers of a report. And they're very durable and they're thicker. And if you took that paper in its most basic size, which is 20 inches by 26 inches, it's a lot smaller than 25 by 38. The thicker you go in paper, the higher the basis weights go. So let's go back to 20-pound copy paper. Sometimes when you go to the store, you see 24-pound and you see 28-pound. And I think we all know that when you go up in basis weight, it always feels a little thicker, and that's true. So a 24-pound a bond is going to be thicker than 20, and 28 pounds is going to be thicker than 24. Another terminology is caliper, and caliper is a measurement used in the paper world for the thickness, measuring the thickness of paper. The higher you go in basis weight, typically the thicker it gets, and hence the thicker caliper it gets. And most papers that we all use today are measured in basis weight. We don't actually buy and sell paper to the thickness. You're buying it to the basis weight. The only paper that you really buy or use on a daily basis that's measured in caliper is board paper. And paper board is not corrugated. It's thick paper like a Band-Aid box or a granola bar box, or think cereal box. That's a solid board paper, and that's made to caliper specifically because those are made into boxes, and the equipment used to make those boxes are they need to make sure that the caliper of the paper is very consistent. The caliper is measured in thousandths of an inch or mils. Put that in perspective. Your typical business card that most people use is 80-pound cover weight, and most 80-pound covers, they're made to basis weight, but they typically hit around 8 or 9 point in caliper and thickness. That's a good question that comes up a lot. So I'm going to break it down into about 5 different categories. The first category is cut sizes, and that's probably most commonly used today, especially at the home office. Cut sizes are typically 8.5 by 11 is the most common. 8.5 by 14 is a size that's not used very much anymore. It used to be known also as another word for it was a legal size. And sometimes when you're buying a car or a house, you'll be using paper that's a little bit longer than 8.5 by 11. Another common cut size is 11 by 17. So I'd say those are the 3 most common cut sizes. And to go on a little further, with the age of digital, there's a bunch of different digital sizes that have popped up over the last 10 years. And those go beyond 11 by 17. And they're typically not used at the home. They're used in a commercial print shop setting on equipment that they have. And the most common sizes in the digital world are 12 by 18, 13 by 19, and 14 by 20. Moving on to the next common sizes in paper would be what we call in our paper world parent sheets. So those are the big boy sheets, if you will, of the cut size. And so a parent sheet, also known as folio size, there's about 6 different sizes that are very typical, and they start off, I'm going to go with the smallest to the largest, 17.5 by 22.5, 19 by 25, 23 by 35, 25 by 38, and 28 by 40. And I think I missed one in there in cover, 20 by 26. So there's several sizes that are super common in the paper world, and these are the sizes that we get from paper mills. Paper mills make paper, and when it's made off the end of the machine, it's made in a roll format. And then from there, those master rolls go to machines that get it into usable sizes for what we all use paper today. And those sizes are the sizes I've listed so far. The last thing on sizes I want to mention is custom sizes. Sometimes a project that you may have involves a lot of paper, and the stock sizes that the paper mills manufacture for us to stock for you may have a situation where your project lays out on the sheet and there's a waste of paper, and you can get custom sizes available, provided to you in a couple different ways. We can order it direct from the paper manufacturer as long as it meets the minimum requirements, and sometimes that's as low as 2,000 pounds of paper. And you can get a custom size where your project lays out on that paper with the minimal amount of waste, and it can save you a lot of money. At WCP, we also have a paper sheeter, and we're able to do custom sheeting for our customers here in the Pacific Northwest. And we keep a roll bank of various papers on the floor. And if you haven't heard of that, I hope you'd reach out to us and give us a try and see if we have what you need for your project and maybe save you some money.
We do get that question a lot. I'll have designers creating a color palette for a client that's can be quite unique. Specific Pantone colors are really difficult in paper to match typically, because when you're looking at the Pantone color palette, there's literally hundreds of thousands of colors that you can choose from in your creation for your maybe a new brand, a logo you're creating for someone. So if you want a paper substrate to match, we can, find the Pantone color, find something we have that's close, and send out samples to the customer to see if they like it as a match, and or in the large scope of things, we can work with our text and cover mills like Nina or Mohawk. Both can do custom colors, typically for 10,000 to 20,000 pounds for special manufacturing. Paper finishes and textures are really popular right now, especially as a single component of a piece to maybe accent a section of a collateral collection. If you're doing a letterhead, you can always choose something with a smooth texture, or vellum or wove are very common letterhead finishes to go to. It's great to get samples as well, because the just slight differences in feel of each of the papers. Some people might like a smooth sheet, or they might go to a super smooth sheet that's highly calendared, but it feels more slick like a coated paper, and might want to choose something with a little more tooth that feels more organic like cotton, and then they would choose a finish that might be referred to as vellum or eggshell. There's so many different options in uncoated papers. Nina, a few years back, they added a couple new textures. One is called wood grain, one is called tech weave, and you have products like the Nikes and Adidas of the world that are creating all these high-tech fabrics. The Nina texture that they created feels like an athletic fabric. In coated papers, when you look at the different options there, you basically have a really high gloss sheet, like a cast coated paper you might want, something with an average kind of everyday gloss, I would say, to something maybe really flat and matte where some people might think it's an uncoated paper, but when you put ink on it, you just want your image to have a little bit better ink holdout. So as options go, again, you can always call us, shoot us an email, ask for some paper samples, get your hands on it, look, feel, touch, because that's really what paper's all about. We're here to help make your paper decisions.
Well, reach out early and often. Remember, you can get samples. Our sample departments keep an inventory of projects that the mills actually produce that highlight features of the paper that they make, whether it's printability. Some of these are just to give you great design ideas. So it'll help spark your creative juices. Some of them are highly educational, explain a lot of different processes, not just with paper, but in the printing or mailing communities. So there's a huge library of resource available in our sample department with your specification rep or with the reps that you work with at WCP. The other thing is that you're designing a piece that's going to be printed, and it has to be printed on something. And so often I see people not really take time to consider the substrate. And ultimately, it's the carrier of the message that you're designing to. So spend some time in the early stages of figuring out what that needs to be. Make sure you can get the paper, make sure it's going to work on the equipment that your printer uses, and make sure it fits your budget.
On a daily basis, we have people contacting WCP Solutions through our website, where you can do an online request or call our sample department or email our sample department directly. I would say the first experience is a lot of creatives just starting out. Your graphic designers don't know that they have access to paper swatch books and flat sheet samples. They might be working with a small client who's doing a trifold brochure, and they might think that they want it super sustainable and want to use a cover stock, but they can call WCP and say, hey, can I get a sheet of 8.5 by 11 in an 80-pound cover and one in an 80-pound text? I'm just not sure what weight of paper I should use for this project. So I think, just having the knowledge that there's access to our sample departments, both in Portland and Seattle. It's access for new and up and coming designers, and even, designers I've been working with for years and years, to come into our sample department and to see print pieces, to be inspired, to get ideas. There's so much that we offer from this area for the design community that a lot of people don't take advantage of just because they don't know what they can get through WCP.